If you follow the gun issue in this country, you know that Justin Trudeau and his Liberals aren't no friends to the law-abiding gun community in Canada, and they promised many things in the last election, including something I've warned about many times, that Canada would sign on to the United Nations Arms Trade Treaty. Well, that process got a big step forward at a recent meeting of the ATT countries. That happened in Geneva, Switzerland, and the NFA put out a statement on this. It read, "This treaty is going to mean changes to our domestic laws, and it will see increased costs for Canadians who buy firearms, ammunition, parts, and accessories. This is an unreasonable treaty, and we are incredibly disappointed that the Canadian government has decided to sign on to it." Sheldon Clare is president of the NFA, the National Firearms Association. He was also a delegate at this meeting in Geneva, watching the proceedings from the sidelines. Sheldon joins me now by Skype. Let's start with, before I ask how the meeting went, and I guess the short answer would be badly, what do you mean this is going to change Canadian domestic law?
Well, the Arms Trade Treaty ostensibly is about regulating illicit arms and illicit arms transfers. But there's a lot of reporting and a lot of requirements to set up national control systems. Really, the sense one gets when you're in the room is that there's a lot of problems elsewhere in the world, but they're trying to find a one-size-fits-all solution and transpose that solution onto places where there aren't these problems, such as North America and Europe.
Now,
where,
most people would be fine, Sheldon, saying we shouldn't be sending guns off to terrorist organizations or guerrilla groups or organized crime. But we already have laws in place to prevent that in Canada.
Well, I think we do. And I was a little concerned about the Canadian statement in which it said that they would be changing our laws to bring them in line with the requirements of the Arms Trade Treaty. And quite frankly, I believe our laws already far exceed what the Arms Trade Treaty would require. However, there's a lot of room for national interpretation. And what I'm expecting to see, based on the comments from the delegation of the Trudeau government, is that they'll want to bring in domestic arms control and blame it on the Arms Trade Treaty when there's really no need for it. And there's certainly provisions that could be tweaked or claimed to be requiring additional firearms control.
The big problem for me has long been when you read the treaty, and most people won't, and they'll just tell you, oh, don't worry, it's going to be fine, it's just a UN treaty. But there's a requirement to keep track of end users. Now, depending on how that's interpreted at the national level, as you say, we could end up seeing a new gun registry by another name.
Well, that's a major concern that I have with this particular treaty, is that there very well could be interpretations that would require that the government could use to, for example, set up another registry. But I think that the concern is a bigger one, in that they're rushing headlong into this when the previous government was much more cautious about their involvement in this particular treaty. There are many countries that have signed on but not ratified. There are many countries that have not signed on or ratified and has not done either yet, but they have stated that their intention is to do that.
Now, the United States is a country that has signed on. I understand Britain may have signed on but not ratified. There's no chance this is being...
Well, the United States has not ratified. Yeah. They did sign it, but not ratified.
So they've signed on, but there's no chance that Congress is going to acquiesce to this treaty.
I would never, ever say there's no chance in politics. I've seen some very strange things happen in the last 2 years, as have you. And, 3 years, I guess you could say. And the idea that there's no chance is something that I would be very reluctant to say. I remember back in the late 1980s when Kim Campbell was banning standard capacity magazines and making lists of prohibited firearms. I was going around telling people that was what was going on, and everyone told me there was no chance that would happen. So I'm a little bit more cynical about the chances of bad things happening.
But it's unlikely that Democrats or Republicans are going to ratify the treaty. I'm not sure what's happening in Britain, but this claim that we have to sign on to this, ratify it, and change our laws because our allies are doing so, it's a bit of a false argument, I'd say.
I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think that there's a fair bit of enthusiasm to appear to be doing something. And that enthusiasm in this particular government is a bit misdirected.
How will this drive up costs for Canadian firearms owners?
Well, the idea is that they want to stop the transfer of major surplus type shipments. And as you know, there are a lot of surplus firearms that get sold on the market when they become obsolete for militaries, and ammunition for them also becomes attractive. There's a fair bit of call to individually be able to identify each cartridge and mark cartridges in a manner so that they could be tied directly to their source and to their end user. This would drive costs up for ammunition tremendously, and we would also see a dearth in military surplus firearms.
So like the SKS that's very popular as an affordable firearm.
Yeah, the SKS is certainly a classic example. And I would say that would be one that many countries don't allow to be imported or moved around right now. And it's certainly one that would be, I think, one that people would look at and say, oh, well, civilians don't need this or want this or whatever. We argued for a very long time at these arms trade treaty meetings, and I've been to many of them, including the program of action meetings, which is a different type of arm of the same beast, that they should not be focusing on civilian firearms or single-person firearms, but really look at national stocks of crew-served weapons. That's what really needs to be looked at. That's what's causing the damage in these countries. And it's not individual firearms owners that are the problem. You can simply look at the history. It's governments oppressing their own people that are the problem.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of those countries sitting in the room talking bravely about the need for an arms trade treaty when really what they're trying to do is protect their own self-interests and look at things in a way to oppress their people more. I thought it was really shocking, frankly.
Sheldon, thanks for keeping an eye on this. Thanks for raising the flag on this. Where can people find out more about what you and your colleagues at the NFA are doing?
Well, they can visit us on Facebook, Canada's National Firearms Association. They can go to our website, nfa.ca. Or they can have a look at some of the United Nations websites and see the statements posted by all the countries and by Canada's National Firearms Association. We were the only pro-firearms NGO in the world to make a presentation at this particular conference.
Wow.
There were many there. But nobody else spoke. And I think many of them didn't realize they would be able to speak.
Well, kudos to you for not only being able to do it, but having the gumption to tell these people what's what in terms of the reality of law-abiding, single-issue firearms owners, as you say. Thanks for the time, Sheldon.
Well, I don't know that we're single issue. I would say
I mean single ownership.
Firearms ownership is an indicator issue, Brian.
Yeah. All right.
If they don't like your guns, they probably don't like you.
Probably not. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.